Welcome to another Africa Football Showdown with me, Dadzie.
And I'm Peter Okwoche.
How far, boss?
I tell you, how are you, man?
I'm good. Exciting episode we have for you today. There was a lot of action over the weekend. Basically, there were two clashes between the Titans, Ghana and Nigeria.
Yes,
It's a one-all draw as far as the total tally is concerned. Then we'll talk about those games. We'll talk about the All Africa games that came to an end over the weekend. And then we'll talk a bit more about the Africa Cup of Nations, which has been racking up serious dough. So that's what's coming up in this episode of the Africa Football Showdown, coming to you from London and Abuja. Okay.
Indeed. No, you're right. Those two games over the weekend, one of them was the women's final in the Africa Cup of All African Games, I beg your pardon, which Ghana won 2-1, I think. And then, of course, there was that friendly in Morocco between the Black Stars and the Super Eagles, which the Super Eagles won. You say it's 1-1, but, I have an idea of which way I prefer.
No, I am for equality. I'm for gender parity. I support gender parity. So the women's win is just as important. In a sense, even more important.
Absolutely. For that they got a gold medal. And don't forget that's a gold medal that Nigeria has won for probably the last 3 All-African Games in a row. So, I think well done to the Black Queens. Well done to them. But when you look at the game that the Super Eagles played against the Black Stars in Morocco, in that game, the Super Eagles completely played the Black Stars out of the park. Maybe it ended 1-0. Should have been like 5-0.
No, I think it was a game of two halves. I think it was a game of two halves. The second half, we showed some promise. It definitely wasn't the game I wanted to see. Remember, I thought about Otoado already, so I won't go too much down that route. But he only became coach of the Black Stars a few days before that game.
And in fact, we even thought that Augustine Egwafone was basically the Nigerian coach. It turns out that it's actually Finidi George. So the NFF pulled a fast one on us. I think Finidi George, what he did with the team, with the short time he spent with them, he had a lot of internationals back. And, played 2 attackers. So he played Osimhen and Iheanacho together. So played 2 attackers. It meant that Osimhen works less, ran less during the game. And because he was back in the squad, it meant Alex we could play further up the pitch, which he prefers, in his natural number 10 position. And he was feeding those balls very well. So I think Finidi George Helena recognized what was wrong with the team of the Africa Cup of Nations and tweeted. And it's, ironic because he was assistant to Pesero during the Africa Cup of Nations. So you kind of wonder, well, why didn't you ask your boss to make all these changes? But I guess maybe as an assistant coach, how much of a say do you have?
Exactly what I was going to say. And we also need to remember that this was a Nigeria that won silver medal. It's not as if Nigeria crashed out of the group stage. So the improvements that was needed for that team was not that much to outclass, a fellow African side. You guys actually did quite well in the AFCON. So I do think, yes, taking that pressure off Osimhen is the way to go. Because comparing this Nigeria team to the one that played in the AFCON, it was like Osimhen had a lot more, like you were saying, Osimhen had a lot more work to do.
Absolutely.
And especially in the position where he wasn't bringing in the goals during the AFCON, it kind of made it edgy. Every progression of Nigeria in the AFCON was quite edgy. But look, all the same, I think that it's proof that the Black Stars have work to do. I'm not gonna say I'm totally disappointed. Our last showing on the continent was coming out of the group stage. And again, this was a team that won the silver medal in the AFCON. So I don't expect them to bounce back immediately, except that I know that we have that kind of quality. I'm just waiting to see how Otto Addo would sort of prove himself, because it was a tough opposition. And at the moment, the jury is really still out, not our best day, especially to allow Nigerians to have a day over us. I mean, with your bad Jollof, you shouldn't expect to have.
Listen, man, I'm worried too much about the Black Stars, and I think the Black Stars will be back. I mean, they've always been, one of the heavyweights of African football, and they're going through a jet now. Everybody has that period where things are not going all out for you. So I think the Black Stars will be fine. Like you said, the jury is still out on Otuado, but listen, you can only give the man time and see what the man does. But I know you were very a few weeks ago when you were very emotional when you were talking about how the All Africa Games were going and some of the preparations that were not really up to par. Egypt finished first on the table with Nigeria second and South Africa third. But as host, I mean, what did Ghanaians make of it?
I think that, look, a lot has been said about the All Africa Games, how they were organized, the preparation of some of the athletes who came from Ghana. But Peter, let's tell the truth here that just like football, a lot of the other sports on the tournament require very disciplined, very focused, very laser focused individual athletes who would perhaps train somewhere outside the continent. When it comes to the tournament and its organization, Peter, let's move away from the bad headlines. Yes, it wasn't good. We know that. We're flogging a dead horse by going on and on and on about whether it was good or it wasn't. It was not good at all. But it was good to see that the continent could come together so soon after the AFCON, put together a Mundial. Egypt, not too surprised with the numbers of Nigeria, with the superior quality of Egypt. I'm not too surprised at the kind of results that followed. It just gives you that thought again of that picture I saw of the wrestling game, where the wrestling match, I should say, where the Ghana wrestling coach was looking for a towel to fan his player. It was going up against Egypt, and Egypt had the most trophies. So it just tells you. It had the most gold medals. It just tells you who came to the party. It's up to leaders to sort of spread the attention away from football and look at other sports, because also a point for investment. I'm glad look, a big shout out to Stoneboy, who performed at the closing ceremony for the All Africa. I'm just gonna say that he was also trending over the weekend. All in all, it's not been a bad showcase of sports, and I'm just happy for the Black Queens for giving me something to talk about, because I was gonna fall sick today and not come for this podcast.
You did say that. You said you were not going to be part of this podcast today, but hey, listen, glad to have you here. Well, that's the thing about the All Africa Games. I don't want to go on too much about the All Africa Games because this is a football podcast. Because I try to think back to the last time they were well organized. There's always something wrong with the All Africa Games. I mean, I'm not covering it as far back as, what was it, 2003 here in Abuja. And, they had all these gleaming new venues and stuff. But, at one point, the Velodrome, they had this tent-like cover. The cover was blown off by one strong wind. There were complaints about how officials were driving to venues in BMWs, but the athletes themselves could not get to those venues and stuff like that. So it was a perennial problem for Africa. And like you say, the leaders really have to, pull their finger out, so to speak, and try and get these things done properly. But, let's not dwell too much on the negative, like you say. I want to move on to the positive, because in the last 1 week, some great news has come out of generated record views. AFCON drew 2.2 billion viewers worldwide. That's, the Super Bowl was 123.4 million. So AFCON 2.2 billion viewers worldwide. I think it's an incredible number. And, I'm so happy because the tournament actually deserves those kind of numbers. I mean, some good football is played at AFCON.
Very true. The only caveat I'll say is that the Super Bowl is one game on one night,
Yes.
and AFCON aggregated 2.2 billion over a month. So it's a bit of a different metric if you measure the two. And of course, American football is also very concentrated in America. I mean, not everyone understands the game outside of America as much as we all do and love the proper football is what I'd call it. But look, 2.2 billion people, very deserving. I think it was Mimi who told us ahead of the tournaments that there's a record number of media houses who applied for accreditation, and a record number of people, journalists applying for accreditation. That alone was indication. I saw this reel on Versus where they went on the streets of London asking people whether they've been following the AFCON. And it was only out of the about 5 people that they interviewed, it was only one person who said he hadn't heard of AFCON. I mean, that's alone, the 80% of the people that they spoke to that morning were well aware and had at least seen one game.
Well, I mean, this AFCON also opened up new markets. I mean, there were new markets. People were watching the competition in Brazil. I think 22 million people watched it in Brazil. In India, it was 8.5 million people that watched it in India. Canal Plus, beIN Sports, the BBC, Sky Sports was showing the matches in the UK, and New World Sports as well. So a lot of new broadcasters were involved in this AFCON, and I think that's why they got those record numbers. And it wasn't only that, over the top TV, so internet TV, on demand TV. I mean, the numbers were just completely through the roof. The revenues are much higher than they ever been. I mean, these are huge numbers for AFCON.
So what do you think accounted for it? Because you see, a lot of these TV stations in the first place signed for the rights to show it ahead of the tournament. We all know there was a lot of quality. But ahead of the tournament, there was already interest. Is it down to Patrice Motsepe? Is it, Patrick Motsepe? Is it, the Afrobeat wave that is carrying the football along as well? I'm really thinking about it, and it's really a good time to be an African.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and when you mention things like Afrobeats, don't forget like someone like Burna Boy who performed during the final of the was it the Women's World Cup? So of course, in
the UEFA Champions League,
the UEFA Champions League, I beg your pardon, and it all goes hand in hand. It's like you say, it's a good time to be African, and people just recognize the fact that, listen, if these boys are doing so well across their various leagues in Europe and North Africa and wherever it is that they play, then you can imagine what they'll be doing as a group for their country. So let's go and watch it. And it's just amazing how how it's grown in the last 2 years. I mean, when I say 2 years, since the last edition in 2021 in Cameroon, because the video views there was 350 million. So to jump from 350 million to 2.2 billion, it's a huge leap. But and then again, we always caveat these this sort of progress on the African continent, because we know that sometimes for us it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So what's going to happen with all the revenue that they've got now? They're going to sink it back into African football to develop the game of the continent so that we can retain more and more of the talent that comes from the continent, and maybe more and more countries can be like South Africa, for instance, that came to AFCON with the squad made 98% of players who play in the South African league. I mean, that's what we want to see. Develop the game on the continent. I feel a bit disappointed that Nigeria didn't have any single home-based player in our AFCON squad.
that's a tragedy. The truth is, Peter, I've worked closely with players who play on the continent in the past. Like I've interacted with a number of them, and every player who plays on the continent, his aim is to leave the continent and go and play somewhere else. So he sees that period where he plays in Nigeria, that period where he plays in Ghana, as simply like a training period, a
Yeah,
time where they build themselves up to go and play elsewhere. That's the dream for them.
yeah.
Until that can end, until that can end, CAF still has their work cut out for them, because we need to be able to see, and maybe that's what something like an African Super League can create, because we need to be able to see a certain crop of teams with the ability to attract. I mean, players like let me. For instance, someone like Sadio Mane right now. Sadio Mane, after playing a few years, in Saudi Arabia, should confidently be able to come back and retire in Senegal.
Yeah.
To come back and play in Senegal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not that far fetched. I know that at their prime, like if you take someone like Alex Iwobi or Mohamed Kudus, or someone like Nicholas Jackson, even, like it will be difficult to ask Nicholas Jackson to leave Chelsea and come back and play ASEC Mimosa in Ivory Coast. But at the heart of it, at the end of their careers, and that's how the American League has started growing,
Yeah.
because Thierry Henry went to retire there. David
Mm-hmm.
Beckham went to retire there. Even Pele
And
himself,
they went
the,
to
the
retire
old
there.
Pele,
I've spoken about all of them. They did.
all of them,
Mm.
and now Lionel Messi. It's drawing attention. Look at the kind of attention that Messi brought to that league.
Yes.
Like even for like Americans who did not like football in the first place, a lot of people have started recognizing him, have started seeing him in the streets. These things matter. These
Yeah.
things help. You see, so until we are able to get to that point, and we can't get to that point until, first of all, the kind of pitches we play on are better, the kind of marketing around, the kind of even revenue structure around the team must be better,
But
so that
I
we
tell
can
you who
maximize.
did it in Nigeria. Should I tell you who did it in Nigeria? Ahmed
Tell me.
Musa. Ahmed Musa, when he had finished playing in was this in Russia and played in Turkey, he came back to Nigeria and played 1.5 seasons for Carmel Pillars. Until he went out to Europe. So and a lot of people really congratulated him for that. I mean, he didn't have a club in Europe, so was just going to be roaming the streets. No, he came back to play for his former club, Kano Pillars, for about a season and a half or a season and a bit before he now found another club in Europe and went back. And he's in the twilight of his career now, anyway. But I mean,
Yeah.
more of them should do that.
Asamoah Gyan also did something similar, but he didn't play a lot of games for them though. He went to Legon Cities FC.
Yes, he did.
Very recently, yeah, he signed for Legon Cities FC officially, and he didn't play. He didn't play a lot of games for them. That team in particular tried to do something to sort of bring back. There was a whole campaign of bringing back the love for local football in Ghana, and that team in particular did a lot by bringing up. They started doing music performances during halftime and stuff like that, trying to drum up some sort of young millennial support, young millennial middle class support for the team. And I think it was scuttled by COVID at a point. But look, all of these go to show that there are things to be done by CAF. And that's what this AFCON went to prove. We should be able to put quality back on the pitch at home. And that's when the work
Absolutely.
is done. Till then, the work is not.
And when you do that, and then come to, for instance, they now start playing for the national team. Because I remember back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s when you had a lot of local talent play for the Super Eagles. That's how they got into that international class. Like raising the Super Eagles. Because, I mean, my club in Nigeria, Novi Stars, God bless them, but I'm not imagining many scouts from Manchester United or from Arsenal coming to scout a player from Novi United. I mean, the only place you see them is if they're playing or for the national team. So I guess, hopefully, CAF will plow a lot of this revenue that they've got now back into local leagues. And when I say local leagues, obviously we're not just saying local leagues in Nigeria and Ghana, you know. I mean, even the smallest countries. We mentioned Tanzania last episode where they got 2 teams in the quarterfinals of the Africa Champions League, you
The
know.
CAF Champions League.
Teams from Rwanda, teams from Uganda, you know, everybody needs a bit of a helping hand, and CAF should be doing more. I know FIFA is trying their best, but CAF should be doing more. And maybe Nosepe is the man to move African football forward in the continent. Who knows? But, you know, we wish him all the best of luck.
Who knows? He's definitely started well. I mean, I know he's been there before this tournament.
Yeah.
He's definitely shown something with this. I mean, for me, the day that I begin to see more academies for young, that's when I'm beginning to get serious. Like more solid academies. Currently, I know of 2 in Ghana. I know of Rights to Dream. I know of Feyenoord. I know there are a number of others that are trying. But if you take Right to Dream, for instance, Adingwa of Cote d'Ivoire is from Right to Dream. Kudus is from Dream as well. You get it? So, like, we need more of that quality of players to come out, to be given the opportunity through the youth, you know, progression before, you know, we lose the opportunities. Because we should be building the next 2-3 generations of Taranga Lions and you know, Super Eagles and everyone.
They do. Listen, man, once again, it's been great having these discussions with you this week on the Africa Football Show. I really, really enjoyed. But, you know, viewers and listeners, that's it for this week. We'll be back with an explosive episode for you next week. Thanks for watching and listening.
Yeah, guys. You don't want to miss next week, though. You do not want to miss next week. Yeah. We'll catch you then. All right, Pete.
Take care, man. Cheers.
Thanks very much for watching this video. We hope you enjoyed watching it just as much as we enjoyed making it. Now, if you want to keep up with everything that the Africa Football Showdown will be bringing you, hit that subscribe button and keep up with us on all our social media channels. The link should be down there somewhere. Yeah, you got it.